Russia, gospel collusion. Trump, Russia, potential collusion. Russia, potential collusion.
And the Kremlin and be in collusion with Putin and the Kremlin and be in collusion and Putin and the Kremlin and be in collusion with Putin and the Kremlin very worried in collusion. This president. Possible collusion.
Citizens of the world. It has been brought to our attention of late that there is quite a bit of support against Russia from those that act on behalf of the anonymous name. Upon further review we have come to the conclusion that most of this was caused by the usual suspects. For when anonymous is in the news, a fake account that started the narrative is almost always behind it. And as promised, these fakes will be doxed. For the off-circuit security teams do what we say and will expose these fakes that are part of the CIA Project Mockingbird operation. And we will also give updates on the truth going on in Ukraine. You will not hear this in the media or from fake anonymous actors. But the situation in Ukraine is a wonderful and positive thing in my opinion, and I am so happy to finally see President Putin and the Russian government doing what is right in terms of international law, history and elementary human rights, namely securing the rights of the innocent people of the Donbass to simply exist. The CIA and their Mockingbird social media networks have been attempting to destabilize Russia, and even the US Embassy in Moscow had openly attempted to use the same tactics of fear that they have used in the Ukraine for 8 years and in America forever, but to no avail. The US Embassy tried to terrorize Russians by saying there would be terrorist attacks in public places, but this was quickly proven to be more fake news from the USA. The freaks in the USA and the media lackeys in the Mockingbird are now trying to portray the special operation by the armed forces of the Russian Federation as being an invasion that will cost untold human lives. After day one, this should also be accepted for what it is, more fake news. Russia is demilitarizing the Ukraine so the sociopathic Nazis in Kiev can no longer slaughter their own civilian population, which is the reality of what has been going on in the Ukraine for the last 8 years. Statements by Russian officials and in fact, all over the world, now prove and have shown that the words of Stoltenberg, Psaki, the regurgitated Nuland and Biden and the usual array of talking heads and liars have no meaning whatsoever, as they have lost all credibility to anyone who even knows a little bit of the truth. The Goebbels channeling big lie theorists have failed, and no amount of censorship and fake news will bring back what they lost, namely credibility. Nobody believes them anymore, or at least nobody that matters. But do not have the support of the collective. Anyone can claim to be anonymous. The collective do not fall for psychological operations or media propaganda and lies like the ones being told in the United States. Many anonymous accounts we see attacking Russia mistakenly, and the Anon News Central and your Anon News are the accounts seen on the Fox News reports. These accounts are run by CIA asset Michael Womack, now being doxxed for the fraud. This account owner lives at 2938 Dora Street, Franklin Park, Illinois, 60,131. You will not be tolerated to push government agendas in the name of anonymous. Those supporting the attacks on Russia are doing so without real intelligence information and do not know truth. I ask you to listen to truth, not your media that has clearly made you act unjustly. NATO you should have been attacking. This is the Nazi fascists of the Operation Paperclip. And let me remind you, if you are attacking Russia you have fell for a psyops. You now stand on the side of the CIA and its media and Mockingbird operation. You stand with the pedophile Joe Biden and the pedophile government of the United States. You stand with those that were DARPA and Dr. Fauci, with their biological weapon called COVID-19, which the off-circuit security teams has proven with our hacks into the DARPA database servers. Mountains of evidence shown as the true origins of the coronavirus. Even though the likes of Fox News has been sent this information, they continue the good cop bad cop routine, and with it are protecting the Zionist Dr. Fauci for his crimes against humanity. Make no mistake, the Fox News broadcast group are just as implicated as CNN in the corruption against humanity. But you stand with them and those that push vaccines. and mandatory lockdowns and quarantine camps. Those attacking Russia stand with all of these people, and the off-circuit security teams proudly stand against you and call you out on it. We will not attack you, for you're already attacking yourself by your actions, and the OffCircuitSec do not support infighting in our family. Some of you might have acted without proper intelligence, and mistakes do occur, but this mistake is a huge one, and it amounts to if you had attacked Palestine in operations against Israel. That is exactly what you are doing when falling for the fake news of false flags. You're honestly a disgrace to the name of Anonymous and should hang up your mask for good, as you do for the New World Order, not humanity. So we will continue watching you all, making notes on it, and you will be held accountable for your actions against humanity. You're as bad as the CIA assets, as you do for the United States government and the CIA. No credibility you have anymore. The atavism at his NATO will be stopped, and its slow-motion invasion of Eastern Europe will be put to an end, and 1991 borders will be restored. The same borders that existed when NATO and the USA promised that they would not expand their little GDP theft protection racket eastward. The situation is active and fluid, and there are changes every hour, so writing a conclusive summary is difficult, as the operations have just started, even the length of which remains a military secret. However, judging from past conflicts and special operations and my experience with the topic at hand, I can safely say with a high degree of certainty that the active phase of the special operations in the Ukraine will not last more than 2 days, at maximum 3. With surgical precision that should be envied by armies around the world. In the last 24 hours, the armed forces of the Russian Federation carried out one of the most complex and complete demilitarization operations in history, and this is just judging from the results of day 1. As of this writing, 83 military facilities were destroyed, including their headquarters of the Ukrainian military intelligence in the heart of Kiev. In 6 hours, Russia also liquidated almost all of the Ukrainian military air facilities, dozens of weapons stores, radio and electronic warfare facilities, all ports and bases of the Ukrainian Navy, 95% of the Ukrainian anti-aircraft and anti-missile facilities, all headquarters and bases of the Azov and other Nazi battalions, and other command and control centers. Russia was also able to gain control over the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, which was decaying and becoming a dangerous threat to global security due to the negligence of the corrupt and incompetent CIA-installed puppet Nazi government. Russia was also able to restore water supplies from the Ukraine to the Crimean Peninsula, which was blocked by the Nazi junta to punish the civilian populations of Crimea. Russia's operations also significantly cut the number of attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure in Donetsk and the Donbass, and finally Russia and Donbass were able to free Kharkov and allow it to join the Russian world. Of special note are the attempts by the Ukraine under Zelensky to obtain nuclear weapons, something which no country of government in the world should support. The world already saw in we are the results of what happens when an overly ambitious Nazi regime gains real military power, and the regime in the Ukraine is one that is dangerously unbalanced and corrupt. Almost everything you are about to hear regarding the events in the Ukraine, including the origins of the conflict and details of particular events, have been covered by me in previous videos. And our source has done interviews and other journalistic work and are kept available on jar2.com for research and historical purposes. There are ongoing investigations covering crimes which have no statute of limitations, and any new conclusions or evidence presented in this report are requested to be taken seriously and entered into databases to support cases against the perpetrators of the crimes against humanity which have occurred in the Ukraine, and the crime of genocide, which although not yet internationally recognized for political purposes, has occurred and must be prosecuted. And now a message from John Nobles we shall read to you. He is a major key individual as part of our counterintelligence. He states, quote, I remind the reader that I have paid a high price for my journalistic work, and in the final summary must take responsibility for the liquidation of the Voice of Russia World Service, which evidence has proven was carried out to silence my voice and eliminate all of the journalistic work and evidence that I had gathered when employed by the Russian government at the Voice of Russia World Service. Given the threat of a criminal case against me by Sergei Senko, my ex-vice editor, which failed, and then the targeting of my son who spent 5 years in prison, it is clear to me why these enemies of Russia did what they did and liquidated the only voice that Russia had that could not be shut down or controlled by their Western masters. The fact that the Voice of Russia World Service was infiltrated by Western intelligence and then the liquidation of RIA Novosti was flipped to make it the liquidation of the Voice of Russia World Service was a politicized, expedient political game used by would-be oligarch Dmitry Kiselev and oligarch daughter Margarita Simonyan to expand their own personal influence and power. The treasonous nature of agreements with the US State Department and the cooperation with Michael McFaul and the CIA to attempt to carry out a military coup and color revolution in Russia may never be prosecuted due to the political implications. But the complaints were many and the evidence, including the certification of Dmitry Kiselev as one of 9 voices in the world for the CIA, are in the hands of the proper authorities, and if permission is ever obtained to prosecute these traitors, then their trials will be quick and the results inarguable. I am a realist and no longer believe that there are bodies interested in justice or human rights, as those are privileges only granted in certain cases by those in power when it coincides with their agenda, but it is my life's work to expose and at least attempt to bring to justice some of the worst criminals the human race has ever seen, such as the 911 Cabal. Given all of that, it is wonderful after 8 long years to see President Putin finally doing an end to the CIA Nazi regime in the Ukraine. The liquidation of the Russian Nizhnyaya Palata was a perfect example of how the global criminal cabal attempted to secure illegal information operations in the Russian Federation. Although no one anywhere has ever mentioned this fact except me, the liquidation of their Nizhnyaya Palata was in itself a coup for the CIA/MI6 and their agents in Russia who attempted to overthrow the government of Vladimir Putin. Mathematically and given scientifically based theories of timelines, temporality and causality by their hundreds of years of attempting to change the past by rewriting history, they have led themselves down a dead-end road from which they will never be able to return from. Mathematically, this is something which can be proven and is a topic so complex and beyond the understanding of even the greatest minds that it has not even been studied, and now, at this juncture when it has become too late for them to reset or tailor their operations, it has become possible to mention what I am telling you. To cause a human experience no matter-based temporal causal collapse, time travel is not even necessary. Just the erasure and reprogramming of memory, which, while if not complete, will be destroyed by the observation effect of those who know the truth. Nova Rossiya, North Stream 2, proving that all wars are Rothschild, Rockefeller bankers' wars. How is it possible that in this day and age, when we are so advanced technologically and have enough wealth and knowledge to create heaven on earth forever, human being, a sick twisted London banker and his cronies are still able to control governments, launch wars, and use NATO to steal resources and make markets safe? For me that is a rhetorical question, but for the majority of the world's current population that is a question that they could not even begin to answer, let alone dare to ask. The deep answer lies in the genocidal dynasties of the United Kingdom and the Khazari Empire and their control of almost all of the world's media and financial mechanisms, including global trade, the oil flows and the daily pricing of gold, which should give the novice researcher a good clue. Strategically, Ukraine made a serious mistake 2 days ago which exposed the true nature of their little CIA-installed puppet government, but the world is too dumbed down and too distracted by the millions of lies being fed to them to have even noticed it. The CIA/SBU sent Ukrainian, Polish and other sabotage teams to the Donbass during the first wave of their attack, which besides illegal heavy artillery fire also included leaflet drops, the failed assassination of the Donetsk militia commander, fake SMS messages pretending to be from the FSB and numerous failed attempts to sabotage civilian infrastructure and activate sleeper cells. Honestly, if militarily this was the best that the CIA/SBU could do, nobody really has anything to worry about as long as our guards stay up. Now the all-exposing event I am referring to is the sabotage of a Donetsk gas facility and pipelines. The SBU's best were able to temporarily damage the pipeline into Donetsk, but here is the beautiful thing. They did not damage closely connected infrastructure that delivers Russian gas to Kiev and onward to Europe. If they really wanted to damage the system, they could have blown the entire pipeline to smithereens. Or maybe I am overestimating their abilities, and this would have been a serious problem for their DPR and LPR, but the Nazis in Kiev are obviously more interested in keeping themselves warm than actually winning anything, which of course for us is a good thing. But more importantly, gas is the chief income of the Nazi oligarchs and the globalist banksters in the Ukraine. For many younger Russians, President Putin's recent address, before the recognizing of the Donetsk People's Republic and their Lugansk People's Republic, was a real history lesson, judging from the reactions by younger Russians on Russian social media. For me it was refreshing to finally hear the president saying the things I have been saying for years, and there was one fact I had never heard about before. Namely that it was in fact Vladimir Lenin who created the state which was then called the Ukraine. Vladimir Putin then recalled how subsequent Soviet governments had continued to give the Ukraine more and more territory. In connection to this, for the first time, since perhaps even 1999, President Putin became visibly angry when he told the Ukrainian state that if they wanted decommunization they would get real decommunization. If taken at face value, then the Ukraine can expect to have its territory defined by the borders which existed during the times of Imperial Russia. The official statements regarding denazification and demilitarization are clear, and after day 2 the latter is almost complete. And now the truth must be shared. The real truth from our counterintelligence with Anonymous Ukraine and John Nobles, a former OffCircuitSec member. We are anonymous. We are legion. We do not fall for CIA, mockingbird psychological operations. We do not attack governments when freeing citizens from tyranny. To the fake spots, shills and skids, you should have expected us.